here. There we go.
And Kippers, both in those summoners, and we'll see if they're running the same mechs again, but they were kicking butt earlier on Thursday.
All right, we are in on the Osiris side. We've got Ghost in the Arctic Cheetah, Wildfire in that Hunchback 2CB. Let's see what his build is here. He's running the 4 Streak 6s and 2 ER large lasers, so we saw him running that before as well, and he is going to be protecting those lights as they head down to Kappa. In the meantime, TCAF has moved up to the hoop and has actually brought a Wolfhound directly in to Theta and gets that early cap as well. There is some early trading going on between the Alpha Lance on both sides. They have a Summoner and a Supernova set up for TCAF here, and he's getting some shots in at Kippers and Airlock, who are very familiar with this position. And they are
Kipper's taking a lot of fire right now. He's at 85%.
So early trades going somewhat in favor of TCAF, but they're starting to get some hits in on them as well. The Supernova with those ER larges at down to 87%. That's Dr. Alex. He is starting to get some of those PPCs in on him.
Right now it looks like Osiris is spreading out about as far as can be. They've got one mech going to back cap Sigma. I'm going to take a quick look, see what that is.
So we are not doing the pip this time, so what I'm going to try and do is try using the new tools that PGI provided us, try and get into first person a little bit more. I will be, of course, pulling back to third person just to make sure that we don't miss a thing. So TCAF has pushed a force up past Theta.
Yeah,
we've got Summoner, almost. Hunchback, and a Supernova all taking shots in. Wildfire in that Hunchback on the cross had his arms ripped off down to 71%, but he's probably doing pretty good just considering the arms account for a large portion of that percentage. And we've got a hard push coming up this right side. They're a little surrounded at the moment, but I don't know if they're too worried about it because they're pushing in aggressively, and they might be able to catch some people off guard here. The Epsilon side has most of the main body for Osiris, and they're kind of getting pushed into the Summoner and the Supernova. And
that Supernova is backing off, but I think he needs to maybe back off a little more, although right now the Epsilon forces for Osiris aren't being
And we've got a fight going on. That Hunchback 2C and the Arctic Cheetah are getting jumped by the main body for TCAF. Ghost getting some good shots in on that Hunchback 2C, however, but it looks like they're trying to take that the Streak mech out of the picture. They're not really capitalizing on this gank. Wildfire has gone down.
In the backfield does go down, so they got him down.
They got to be careful, though. If it takes them too long to take Ghost and Wolverine out, they're going to potentially lose that Supernova. I don't know if Osiris is pushing it very hard, though.
Picked on right now in the backfield by a Osiris Wolfhound.
So that Supernova has begun bailing out, and he's getting run up on now by Airlock. But they've done some damage in the backfield. TCAF really getting in on Osiris. Wolverine has dropped down, and he's got that Wolfhound on him. He's not long for this world. That's going to be a pretty big kill there, getting that Hunchback out of the way, and we've got Osiris effectively backed into the corner. He is lagged, and he will be taken out shortly. Ghost is down to 47%, and I think he is lagged as well.
Wolverine did go down, and the Supernova finally goes down in the backfield. They kind of left him to die, basically, TCAF did.
The Supernova for Dr. Alex here is the Supernova I've been watching. He is getting run up on by Airlock, but he's putting out some pretty good damage considering how outnumbered he is. He does have Summoner help up over the top that's kind of just keeping their heads down, and he's putting shots into the back of Reckless in that Battlemaster 2C.
Yeah, Reckless did get the kill on the Wolfhound that was trying to engage him, but in return was taking a lot of fire from the backfield here.
He is this Battlemaster 2C running incredibly hot. He's not going to be able to put out a lot of numbers, but I cannot believe that Supernova is alive
right now. They're up by they've got 3 mechs remaining for Osiris. They've only had 2 dead for TCAF, and that Battlemaster now is in a world of trouble.
The Battlemaster now is the next person that they're running up on. Looks like Dogmeat is actually dead. It's just that spectator tool glitch, but they have taken him out. But now it looks like I believe, is it 4? There's 3 mechs left for Osiris at this point? The Summoner, and the Arctic Cheetah?
The Arctic Cheetah is dead.
So what do you got left?
I've got 2 Summoners.
Oh,
Two Summoners on the field right now. They're tangling with, what is this? Another Summoner in the backfield for TCAF, yeah. But there are 3 other mechs for TCAF that are trying to close up. If this Summoner for TCAF can stay alive long enough, then his friends are going to come help him out. He does go down, but the others are coming in.
So they still have these 2 Summoners live. Airlock and Kippers, extremely talented Summoner pilots. They really know how to place those PPCs. I'm just going to take the scoreboard off the screen at this point because going into cockpit unfortunately still causes a glitch showing some mechs as alive when in fact they are dead. But in terms of the points here, Osiris leading on caps and leading on tickets. They've got a very fresh TCAF Summoner here. They really need to start working some of these caps down. Epsilon is going to fall to the Wolfhound.
Wolfhound, sorry, is going to Epsilon, but they need to, these other 2 mechs for TCAF need to move after those Summoners because they're just going to go cap Sigma while Epsilon's taken. And that's a 2 mech cap versus 1. They're not going to be able to out cap them unless these 2 mechs start doing something fast.
The Wolfhound should be able to break for Gamma. Honestly, I think if I was this Hunchback and this Summoner, I would probably be sending him straight off towards Kappa just to prevent another cap. But yeah, the tickets are close enough that they could probably squeak out, at this point, maybe still a 3-2. But really, a 4-1 would be a lot more comfortable for TCAF. But TCAF really set up in a solid position to swing this back in their favor. That Wolfhound on Epsilon appears to be staying for a full cap. He's finally getting off, but
yeah, I think he should have moved a little faster.
He probably should have moved a little bit quicker there.
It looks like they're all headed for Gamma right now, which I don't think is the right play either. For Osiris, though, if you had to pick 2 pilots to be left in the game at the end game here and 2 mechs to be, it would be Airlock and Kippers. They have done a fantastic job so far through these semifinals. In those Summoners, they're just racking up the damage.
And we've seen some extremely big plays, too. Those 2 mechs are now starting to move towards Hoop side. They might have visibility on stage. So if one mech peeks up over stage, he might start getting pelted pretty hard in a 2v1 here. And you know Kippers and Airlock, they're going to start putting those shots downfield. This is going to be bloody. So at the very least, well, the Summoner lost an arm, but at the very least, you know, he's able to kind of slow their roll, but they're going to come in hard on Theta, it looks like. So Sled, it would be in his best interest to just make sure that they do not get Theta and allow that Wolfhound to do work.
Disengage at this point. Wait until they get a little closer
if
instead
he
of taking
dies,
extra damage.
If he dies, they will take Theta, and that's not going to be good at all.
One final push.
A 4-1 would win it for TCAF here.
Capture resource points from them to stop the bleeding.
Looks like Theta is being captured. Airlock is going wide, but that's going to force Sled to come in and try and get the stop here. But if he can't hit him, it's going to neutralize Theta. That could be a huge misplay. Okay, so he was able to slow it down. That was extremely close. Cost him quite a bit of health, but they need Sigma. It's all about stopping the Theta cap, but they need Sigma. I don't think they can pull this off. This might go in favor of Osiris at this point. It just took that Wolfhound too long to get around and get the job done. We're looking at like 12 seconds until the game is over. There's no way he's going to get to Sigma time.
Win this. Wow.
Osiris just pulled that one off. They didn't even need Theta. It was just took them too long to get Gamma, too long to get Sigma. You could not do long caps on Epsilon like that. That bought precious seconds, and this is going to go in favor of Osiris.
We've gathered enough resources. This triumph will provide us huge
TCAF with the opportunity and let it slip out of their hands there at the end.
That was incredibly
Up more mechs.
close.
There were only 2 remaining for Osiris. They needed to spread out and cap and quick cap, and instead they went, like you said, at Epsilon for the long cap. I think that really hurt them there.
It really did, and honestly, I think if you were going to send any mechs to Epsilon, it should have been the Summoner or the Hunchback, and allow that Wolfhound to use his speed to get a head start on some of those really far caps. You can't send that Wolfhound to the close one and have his legs need to be moving big time.
Yes.
And they needed to get a 4 cap, a straight up 4 cap, like half an hour ago, essentially. It is just not good time management there by TCAF, and they definitely let that slip away. Now, they got to feel, despite the loss, though, they got to be feeling pretty good about just how well they were trading. If they can refine the clock management a little bit, they could maybe come back in here and pull off 2 more wins to move ahead. Airlock, though, pulling 702, he is a force to be reckoned with in that summoner. Big time. Big time. He was doing incredibly well, and so...
Yeah.
Well,
really, I think you nailed it right there. TCAF had the advantage, and they let it slip away on caps, but they have to walk away from this first match as feeling pretty good. I mean, you know, there were some questions about TCAF. They played a lot of matches, but their win-loss ratio was a little bit lower than some of the other teams in the tournament. Osiris, you know, a lower seed, but played really well on Thursday. And you come in and, you know, really you beat Osiris in everything but the actual score. And that's, you know, obviously you want to walk away with the win, but pretty good showing for your first drop, especially coming off a bye they haven't played in a little while.
Absolutely. So while we wait for them to get to the map vote screen, as soon as they do, we'll of course break in and take a look. We've got Tourmaline Desert on Conquest here for the map. An initial immediate cap on Theta for TCAF, and of course the Sigma cap as well. And I believe did they have Kappa right off the bat?
I think it was
you know what? I think Osiris sent their squad over to Kappa. They immediately sent their streak boat and the 2 lights over to Kappa. So they pulled that, they pulled Gamma, and they pulled Epsilon ultimately for the 3 cap. Let's take a look at the map banning screen here real quick as they choose. I would not be surprised to see them go back to Tourmaline.
And yep. There they are.
There they are. Nobody wants to play the long game on Polar, I guess. Polar's getting the shun. It's being shunned. So
yeah, we have seen every map but Polar so far.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, we did see HPG Manifold, didn't we? So, set up here, we've got the Supernova and the Summoner set up on Alpha Lance of Team 2 for TCAF, trading into essentially the C4 region where they had Airlock and Kippers in their Summoners. But then we saw kind of a push movement, or just a forced movement here by TCAF. Not straight brawl push, but an aggressive movement. And
I liked that movement that they did.
I did too.
Osiris
especially they caught
so
guys
wide
out.
At Epsilon. They caught guys out, and half of Osiris was basically ineffective on that push because they were so far out at Epsilon.
So we had that retreat by essentially the Wolf Pack with their streak boat, just trying to get back. They also had the other Hunchback up on top of C6 or somewhere over in that region. Basically, those guys, that aggressive push, they cut those guys in half. And when I saw that going down, I was thinking that, wow, TCAF is going to take this. Especially when we saw the Supernova essentially back his way up into Fox 4 and then had that Overwatch from the Summoner up here. And we had the push through Epsilon, essentially, of Kippers and Airlock. And then, of course, the Battlemaster down here in the open field. They were holding the line with just 2 mechs really well. Like, I expected the Supernova and the Summoner to just get wiped, and then Airlock and Kippers to be able to turn around and just immediately start helping the rest of their team, and it didn't happen, and that was an incredible, like, surprise. And even when the Supernova ducked down and stopped trading, so he saved himself some time, and then that Summoner able to just basically take shots into the Battlemaster that was in the open field and effectively shut down that Battlemaster long enough for their team to finish the job and come swing through. That was very impressive. Now, I think there was a couple key kills on some TCAF mechs there that if those key kills did not occur, I think TCAF would have sealed the deal. But we saw a fight basically after Airlock and Kippers pushed their way through. They won a key fight over Fox 4 against that Summoner that was posted there, as well as taking down that Supernova. if either of those summoners died, or well, not even, but if the summoners died, obviously the game would have been over. But just the fact that they were able to win that and win it quick enough to then bolt to Sigma and take Sigma sealed the deal in their favor, because ultimately this all came down to Sigma. Theta had a battle going over it, but if they didn't go back and get Sigma, Oz would have lost this one. Straight up.
Yeah, and the other thing is the summoners, not only are they such a great mech right now because of the PPCs and the jump jets, they're fast for a heavy, right? They're a clan heavy. They move well. So you kind of have a little bit of an advantage even if you get into a cap race strat and those are your last couple of mechs, as long as it's close. It's not like you're trying to, you know, out cap with a supernova or a leg mech or something, right? A slower mech. Summoners can move pretty well. They can move to those cap points. Is what they did. They got back to Sigma, they got to Theta, and were able to hold on to the caps long enough to win that game. I think even losing one summoner might have changed that. But really, honestly, for TCAF, it's that end game capping. They need to just be a little smarter in what mech goes where and at what point to do it. There was that moment when both summoners kind of started backing off. It almost seemed like TCAF.
It was a summoner and a hunchback, I believe.
Well, no, I'm talking about Osiris. Both summoners for Osiris started backing off when there were 3 TCAF mechs, like in Echo 4. And the summoners for Osiris started backing off back towards Sigma a little bit. Yeah. And it seemed like there was a moment of hesitation by TCAF on kind of deciding what to do, right? Do we push the summoners or do we go to cap? And there was like maybe a 10-second hesitation.
There might have been some argument going on.
Yeah, there could have been some discussion in lobbying things. And sometimes when you get down to these cap strats, you need to be decisive. You need to say, you know what, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to go do it right now. Because then it's...
I mean, if they would have decided to rush to Sigma, maybe let the Wolfhound do his job, but if they got the other mechs to chase them down at Sigma, maybe they could have finished the fight at Sigma and then recapped Sigma immediately instead of basically leaving that to the Wolfhound. But on the map here, I've got a majority of them cleaned up at the D5 region. They sent the Wolfhound over to Epsilon, but then they started sending both of them to Gamma for the Hunchback and the Summoner, but they broke off after the Summoner started running there. Then he turns around to get to Theta and stop the cap at Theta. I don't think that was, I mean, it had to happen. If they weren't going to push those 2 Summoners at Sigma, they had to stop the cap at Theta. But what I don't agree with is, for one thing, the amount of time that Wolfhound spent capping Epsilon, he needed to basically flip it and go. Like, he needed to go. But even still, I think that the Hunchback should have gone Epsilon and the Wolfhound should have gone Gamma, or even better, the Wolfhound should have just gone straight to Kappa. I mean, any one of these, not saying that it necessarily would have straight up won them the match, but just from an efficiency standpoint of the speeds of the mechs, sending your fastest mech to the closest point, maybe they wanted to buy themselves a few precious seconds by flipping that cap as quickly as possible, but sending that Hunchback all the way to Gamma, those precious seconds cost them a lot more. I think it's more
important. The seconds are more important if you can get multiple caps neutralized at once than one cap neutralized earlier. You know, I'd rather neutralize every cap with, you know, just a little bit of time left to go than neutralize one than the other. So I think you're right. I agree with your strategy, sending faster mechs to further caps.
But bottom line, they just needed to clean up a little bit quicker. It was so close. They let those summoners get away. That ultimately, all said and done, that is what cost them the match. So if they could have cleaned up a little quicker, if they could have won against Kippers and Airlock, they would have won. But Kippers and Airlock won that key fight in that key moment and got to Sigma together and flipped it, and that sealed the deal right there. So there's a good possibility that even if, you know, even if they sent the Wolfhound to Gamma or whatever, it might not have been enough.
Yeah. But we'll see if they can clean it up. They're on the same map now. They are on opposite sides. But we should see if they can resolve their issues or not.
So we are just watching these dropships coming in right now. Let's take a look at Alpha Lance here. So we are on the TCAF side. They have sent a full dropship to Alpha Lance. We will see if there's an immediate trade across the way. We got 2 Supernovas, a Summoner, and a Wolfhound. Are they going to step up and try and make the shots? Let's take a look.
And there goes the summoners for Osiris jumping right across to Alpha Lance. Not any initial shots yet. Battlemaster gets a shot in though.
Target.
So those summoners, Kipper and Airlock, once again on that Alpha Lance side and sending those PPCs downfield. So it's ER large versus PPCs. Who's going to win? The twisting of the Supernova definitely slower. Hard to keep those lasers on target effectively. So the pinpoint front-loaded damage of the PPCs, if they can land them, is definitely going to be hurting a lot more than those ER larges. But over time, I think the ER larges are going to stack up.
And those summoners are moving up pretty close. They're actually down low in the canyon or valley next to Epsilon right now.
Looks
a little more aggressive maybe than they were last year.
Paul Gadling is trying to get away. He does take a little bit of that strike. In the meantime, we do have mechs moving up to Hoop. The Wolf Pack is up on Hoop, and they actually have somebody back on the Spire here. The Hunchback 2CA rolling those ER larges, extreme range from the Spire, but Osiris is definitely spread out. And in terms of caps, it's only one cap to one cap, but they're sending Dogmeat towards Kappa right now. That should start flipping things in favor of Osiris.
TCAF feels like they're playing Osiris's game a little bit more right now. Last game they were much more aggressive and grouping up. They seem to be spreading out a bit, although here they go. We've got 4 mechs now moving around the ring, it looks like.
Now, it's important to note that they had an airstrike on that Spire that got that mech to dock, and that allowed these mechs to kind of move in quite a bit distance before they even realize where they are. I don't think Osiris necessarily knows that these guys are on the move. They probably do now. They definitely do now, but at least it allowed them to get into Theta.
Know that they're right on Theta. That Hunchback is right next to Theta for Osiris.
They're going to allow the Theta to flip. They had a lot of suppressing fire that I think really helped allow that push to succeed. Now, we got some pretty nasty shots coming in. Was that ATMs I just saw?
And Arctic Cheetah jumping on the Supernova. Osiris Arctic Cheetah jumping on TCAF Supernova is kind of out in the middle right now by the ring. He is taking a lot of fire.
We do have Kefangst. It looks like he's rolling ATMs at the moment. He's got 4 ATM-6s, so there are missiles on the field. Osiris is getting a little bit shredded in the open here. They're dealing out some decent damage as well, though. Big strike coming in. Is it going to hit Reckless? Looks like it's an Artie strike. Deals a little bit of damage to him. But this is a scattered fight. The Wolf Pack here is working on Artanis. There's just battles happening everywhere.
On either side of each other on stage.
They got a leg on Ghost. Ghost gets legged, but then he legs the Wolfhound, so we got 2 crippled mechs. There's a cripple fight right in the middle. Ghost goes down, but Artanis is not going to last much longer. He's going to try and crawl his way back to safety. At the very least, he might be able to go crawl to a cap point, but he's just trying to deal whatever damage he can. Now, this Hunchback running out in the open.
Next to each other on stage that don't even realize it.
Supernova goes down for TK.
Goes down. The summoners have jumped up on stage where both TCAF Supernovas were basically hiding from Osiris.
The Supernova is not going to be lasting too much longer. He's getting surrounded now. He's got the Wolfhound on his tail, but that Hunchback is trying to help keep that Wolfhound out of him. 46% for the Supernova, but oh, Kippers with the big shot right to the CT takes him out. Mr. Nixon in the Hunchback 2C is not going to last much longer as he gets surrounded.
Shaman and the Summoner jumped on that Hunchback on the Spire, took him out. Right now, they're just trading mechs, and they basically just swapped places completely.
Lot of damage, though, on both sides. TCAF is a little bit healthier, but they are down a mech. We'll have to see whether or not they are able to start getting some of those key kill shots in on the remaining mechs for Osiris, but they are going up 3 caps to 1 as Kappa flips back over. Wolfhound bravely running right down the middle, going face-to-face with Kippers, dodges the PPC, but he is going to get jumped by Dogmeat. He doesn't know he's there, and he gets legged.
Oh, he got legged.
Dogmeat with the big flank coming in, legging that Wolfhound, crippling him, and he's going to be suboptimal. He's allowing Airlock to get right up in on his face, but I don't know if Airlock knows that he's hiding right there. The longer that Wolfhound stays alive, the more damage he can put out. Big airstrike right across the Summoner, and the damage is starting to flip back in favor of Osiris. Any lead that TCAF had in terms of percents is starting to bleed away.
Look at how damaged both teams are right now. My goodness.
It all comes down to just landing those key shots at this point. Everyone is in such dire straits that a key shot on a mech could take it out and start flipping it back in the other direction. We're going to have a Hunchback 2C hiding around the spire. He's going face-to-face with Cafe with those ATMs. He took out a side torso. Did he just cripple him? He sticked him. That Supernova is now sticked. That Hunchback won that exchange, and he was able to stick that Supernova. He's still giving data, though.
This is like a knife fight right now.
Wolfhound finally goes down. Artanis is also lagged in Wolfhound. He goes down, but the Summoner now going in on Airlock right after Airlock just finished off that Wolfhound. Big shot right here, and he misses. And Airlock coming around strong with the Hunchback and the Wolfhound in tow, and he gets taking him out. The last Summoner here at 31%, and he's got a strike right on him. This is going to hurt. 24%, one more shot, and he's down. 19%, he is the last one left, and Osiris takes it. Look at the health. 25%, 24%, 37, 43, 37, and 43. Everyone was crit out. Unbelievable.
That was one heck of a close match. Kippers with 869. We've been talking about it since we saw D5 and Osiris first play. Kippers and Airlock in those Summoners. At this point, you've got to figure out a strat, I think, just to kill those two players. I mean, they are absolutely
out of this world right now.
Osiris right now.
3 kills, 869 damage. I mean, they're fantastic pilots, but at the same time, those Summoners are a force to be reckoned with right now that pinpoint front-loaded damage, but to be perfectly honest, nobody's matching that right now. The Summoners on the other side, even D5's mechs could not counter Airlock and Kippers effectively. They were keeping pace, but this matchup, I mean, the damage on TCAF is pretty fantastic, though. This was way closer than the scoreboard shows, based on how damaged those Osiris mechs are, but Osiris was able to keep those mechs alive, filter them to the back, allow their other mechs to take point and take some more of that damage. TCAF did work, and they were so close on that one. They could have cleaned up, and they could have then gone and worried about the caps later. They weren't really necessarily in trouble with the caps, but they needed to land some more of those key shots. Some of the PPCs went wide, and some of those key battles there going in favor of Osiris really, like I said, there was a lot more healthy mechs on Osiris or on TCAF than there was on Osiris, and Osiris just landed their shots and brought it back into their favor.
And they did a great job protecting their mechs, rotating, twisting off that damage, you know, trying to spread as much as possible, you know, the armor across their team so that the fresher mechs, that, you know, the few that they did have, right, are taking the shots or taking the opportunities, while the hurt mechs are waiting either for the cooldown of the other team, waiting for the angles, and still putting out that damage. But I mean, honestly, at this point, if you got down to a late game situation and everyone and every team was hurt, I would want to have Airlock and Kippers on my team.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just, and I'd want them in the dual Summoners. I mean, those guys are landing, it seems like every shot they're landing.
I mean, this isn't like just a big play that we're calling out here, but so far, every single match that we've watched with Osiris in the semifinals, those guys are the guys to watch right now because, and like I said, a lot of it might have to do with the mech, a lot of it might have to do with the role that they've been assigned, but they are playing that role almost to perfection.
Fantastic.
Almost to perfection. I mean, it's hard to talk about big plays when you've got like an ER large laser supernova. Those guys are definitely doing work, but you can see the damage on a pinpoint front-loaded damage mech. They're clearly landing those PPCs if they're coming in top damage. They're clearly landing them. Watching Dogmeat come in and get that leg on that Wolfhound, just little plays like that add up. If that Wolfhound did not lose his leg there, he had his back turned, Dogmeat took the risk, came around the bottom side, took the leg out of that Wolfhound.
Play.
That one Wolfhound, as fresh as he was, I mean, he wasn't perfectly fresh, but he was in good, okay shape. If he had his legs, that Wolfhound alone, if he was able to do really tight peeks on a corner with those lasers, he could have been the difference of coring out all of those hurt Osiris mechs. But losing that leg, he then became a turret. He could no longer do fast peeks around corner, little harassment peeks, little scratch damage that adds up to kills. He can't do that anymore. He turned into a defensive turret, and anytime anybody peeked, he put his burns on target, but he was not long for the world because he could not move fast enough to get out of dodge and then ultimately got taken out. Just a really clean gameplay from Osiris, but TCAF should not feel badly about that second drop. Compared to drop 1, even drop 1 was fantastic in terms of their gameplay.
Even drop 1 was great by TCAF. Just that last little hesitation on Cap, I think, really cost him. Drop 2 was just a great drop, and like I said, right now, I don't want to take away from the other guys on Osiris because everyone's playing well. Like you said, that great play by Dogmeat. We've been seeing, the guys just across the board playing well. But Airlock and Kippers are on fire right now, and that's, you're kind of running up against that. It's, what do you do? How do you counter, the pop-tarting PPC summoners unless you put some pressure on them? But the other thing I think is that Osiris is recognizing the value of those two summoners, and they're not putting them in dangerous situations. They're keeping them around the edges of the engagement, farther away, where the pilots are still good enough to hit their shots at range, but they're not, they're not leaving them in a situation where they're going to get run up on or bunched up with the rest of the team and get in trouble on a push or anything like that. They are essentially fighting from the side and doing it very effectively. Absolutely.
And really, in this level of play, everyone has to do their job well. Otherwise, it turns into a snowball stomp. And everybody is playing their jobs very well. We're obviously calling out some of the big plays, the big players that we're seeing that are contributing above and beyond what's being asked of them, or at least what the expectations are. But really, everybody is playing fantastic. And considering some of the things I've heard from people about how they thought TCAF was just going to get rolled over and that they don't even deserve to be a Div A team or something like that, I think TCAF made a statement here against Osiris that they didn't win, but they are playing at a level that I think beat expectations here. And I really hope that some of the people that were talking negatively about TCAF and thinking that this was going to be just a shit stomp, I hope that they have seen that these guys definitely put a lot of effort in, and they've definitely improved as a team. And they're not out of this yet. They're going to be going down into the losers bracket, and they're going to have the opportunity to start climbing. And I hope TCAF is able to just refine things a little bit, enough to be able to work their way back up through the bracket. And I hope we see them again playing against some of the tough teams in this bracket. But they're going to have the opportunity to do that here.
Yeah. Double elimination, that was their first drop, so they have the opportunity to keep playing. They hand Osiris now 2 matches, 2 wins. They're moving up in the tournament bracket, staying in that winner's bracket, keeping themselves a little bit of a margin for error. It's always a little tougher. You lose your first drop, you're not out of it, but you don't have a margin for error anymore.
And obviously, in terms of seeding, TCAF would have been favored in this one, and that's why I think there was a lot of that conversation going on. Osiris, I believe, just from what we've seen out of them so far, vastly underrated in terms of the seeds. So I think we're going to be seeing Osiris really start working their way up through this ladder, and I'm excited to see when they start playing teams like EMP, Eon Synergy, all these really heavy hitters that have already proven themselves. We've seen Osiris do great things, but I think Osiris is playing on a different level right now than I've ever seen them play before.
I would agree with that. They've come out ready to play. They are precise in their strategies. Their shots are on target, and their players, are playing very well right now. It's I don't want to beat the dead horse, but these guys are playing extremely well. And if I were another team and I had Osiris coming up in the tournament, I might be a little worried. They look very good.
Absolutely. Nobody should be underestimating anybody at this point. Also, just to throw it out there, Cafe Inc.'s bringing the Supernova with the ATMs. I don't know if maybe they were expecting heavy aggression out of TCAF, and it just didn't quite happen this time. They didn't seem to do much. I kind of saw that, and I'm thinking to myself, that's an interesting choice, and it might be one of those things where they thought something was going to happen, and then they basically were using the weapons because that's what they brought. Would be interested to hear kind of what they thought with that. They were already up 1-0, so I guess they can afford to maybe switch things up a little bit. Just
they
to
watched the Phoenix Legion match.
Yeah,
saw the effectiveness of ATMs.
If TCAF decided to straight up push them, those ATMs might have really shown their strength. But whether or not they were effective in this particular battle, not sure. But I think a lot of people are still kind of experimenting and learning new tricks and tactics and stuff, and it's really exciting to see that stuff actually start to develop here in the semifinals. So, with that, we've got a couple things to